Earth had always been an afterthought in galactic politics, a backwater planet in an unremarkable solar system. That changed when the Vorlak Armada appeared at the edge of human space, their crystalline ships blotting out the stars like a cosmic plague. Admiral James Walker stood on the bridge of Earth's last defensive outpost, watching as the holographic display showed colony after colony going dark. Mars had fallen 3 days ago. The Jupiter stations lasted barely 12 hours. Now only Earth remained, with a ragtag fleet of hastily armed civilian vessels and the remnants of the United Earth Navy. "Updates from the Council?" he asked, his voice steady despite the weight pressing down on his shoulders. Lieutenant Davis handed him a datapad. "Not good, sir. They're still debating evacuation protocols." Walker suppressed a bitter laugh. Evacuation to where exactly? The Vorlak had systematically cut off every escape route. Intelligence suggested they weren't interested in resources or territory. This was extermination, pure and simple. And Project Thunderchild? Davis hesitated. Dr. Stone reports it's operational. Walker's gaze snapped up. Operational. It wasn't supposed to be ready for another 6 months. "Yes, sir," Dr. Stone says, and I quote, "It'll either save humanity, or we'll all be too dead to complain about the safety bypasses." The Admiral nodded grimly. Thunderchild had been humanity's most closely guarded secret, an experimental warship incorporating reverse-engineered alien technology. It wasn't supposed to be their last hope. It wasn't supposed to be crewed by engineers and scientists instead of trained military personnel. But here they were. As Walker made his way through the station's corridors toward the secure dock, emergency alerts blared overhead. The Vorlak had breached the outer defense grid sooner than expected. Dr. Emma Stone met him at the airlock, her face haggard from sleepless nights. "It's not pretty, and it's not protocol, but it's the best we could do." The ship that awaited them was unlike anything humanity had built before. Its hull was an amalgamation of conventional metals and shimmering alien alloys that seemed to drink in the light. Where most human ships were utilitarian in design, Thunderchild was almost predatory, sleek and angular, with weapon systems grafted onto every available surface. "The drive core?" Walker asked, running his hand along a bulkhead that felt unnervingly warm to the touch. "Stable, more or less," Emma replied. "We've incorporated the gravitational manipulation technology from the Arcturan wreckage. In theory, it should give us maneuverability that the Vorlak can't match." In theory. Everything about Thunderchild was theoretical. But theory was all they had left. An explosion rocked the station, and emergency bulkheads began slamming shut. "They're through the inner defenses," Davis reported, his voice crackling over the comm. "Admiral, you need to launch now, or you won't launch at all." Walker looked at the assembled crew, scientists, engineers, and a handful of military personnel. Not the crew he would have chosen for humanity's last stand, but perhaps the crew humanity needed. "How much of a chance do we have?" he asked Emma quietly. She met his gaze unflinchingly. "Enough of one to try." Walker nodded and gave the order that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. "All hands, prepare for immediate departure. Humanity doesn't end today." Thunderchild wasn't born of peace or scientific curiosity, but of desperate foresight. 5 years before the Vorlak arrived, a small exploration vessel had encountered the remains of an Arcturan science ship drifting in the Kuiper Belt. The Arcturans, an ancient species that had vanished from the galactic stage centuries ago, had left behind technology that defied human understanding. Dr. Emma Stone had been a junior researcher then, one of many assigned to the classified project that would eventually become Thunderchild. She remembered the first time they activated an Arcturan power cell, how it had continued generating energy for months without any detectable fuel source. "We shouldn't be doing this," her colleague, Dr. Marcus Reed, had warned. "We're children playing with nuclear weapons." But humanity had always been defined by its willingness to reach beyond its grasp. When intelligence suggested that hostile forces might exist beyond known space, the decision was made. The Arcturan technology would become humanity's shield. Thunderchild's development had been fraught with setbacks. 3 research facilities were lost to containment breaches. Hundreds of the brightest minds on Earth gave their lives to solve incomprehensible equations and tame alien metals that seemed to have wills of their own. The ship's heart was the Arcturan gravitational drive, a system that didn't so much ignore the laws of physics as negotiate with them on more favorable terms. Around this core, humanity had built something unique, a vessel that incorporated the best of human ingenuity with the remnants of a civilization far beyond their own. As Admiral Walker toured the ship now, Emma explained the hybrid systems that made Thunderchild unlike any warship in known space. The hull incorporates self-healing nanomaterials, she said, gesturing to walls that seemed to shimmer with a life of their own. And the weapon systems, well, we're still not entirely sure what some of them do. Walker raised an eyebrow. That's not exactly reassuring, Doctor. Would you prefer I lied? Emma countered. We've mapped about 60% of the Arcturan systems. The rest is educated guesswork. The ship's bridge was a testament to this hybrid approach. Conventional control stations surrounded a central platform where a web-like structure of light hovered, the Arcturan neural interface that would link the commander directly to the ship's systems. This is where you'll stand, Emma said, pointing to the platform. The interface will connect to your neural implant, giving you direct control over the ship's primary functions. Walker frowned. I don't have a neural implant. Emma pulled a device from her pocket that looked uncomfortably like a medical drill. You do now, or you will in about 10 minutes. As medical staff prepared him for the hasty procedure, Walker received reports from Earth's defense forces. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. The Vorlak were systematically disabling orbital defenses, their weapons cutting through Earth's most advanced shields like they weren't even there. How did we miss them? Walker asked through gritted teeth as the neural implant was attached to his brainstem. How did we not see them coming? They use some kind of dimensional folding for long-range travel, Emma explained. By the time our deep space arrays detected them, they were already at Saturn. The procedure complete, Walker stood unsteadily and approached the neural interface. The web of light seemed to reach for him, tendrils extending toward the fresh implant at the base of his skull. What should I expect? He asked. Emma's expression was grim. Contact with a technology we barely understand, controlling a ship we built but don't fully comprehend, facing an enemy that's already destroyed half our solar system. So, nothing you've been trained for. Walker took a deep breath and stepped onto the platform. Humanity adapts, he said as the light enveloped him. That's what we do. The first 24 hours aboard Thunderchild were chaos. The ship's systems, a patchwork of human and Arcturan technology, fought against each other as much as they cooperated. Emergency repairs became routine, with crew members sprinting from crisis to crisis throughout the vessel. Lieutenant Mike Rogers found himself acting as both navigator and weapons officer, despite having trained as neither, a theoretical physicist before the Vorlak arrived. He now bore responsibility for systems that could unleash devastation on a stellar scale. The targeting algorithms are rejecting our input again, he reported, frustration evident in his voice as his fingers danced across controls that occasionally shifted position of their own accord. Beside him, Dr. Lisa Torres, formerly a specialist in xenobiology, had become their de facto communications officer. The Arcturan translation matrix is giving me gibberish, she muttered. I think it's trying to translate Vorlak communications, but nothing makes sense. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out as scientists and engineers struggled to fulfill roles they had never trained for. What they lacked in military discipline, they made up for with raw intellectual firepower and a desperate will to survive. Admiral Walker felt all of it through the neural interface. Every success, every failure, every moment of fear and determination coursing through his consciousness like a secondary nervous system. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It had become an extension of himself, responding to his thoughts with unnerving immediacy. "We can't keep running," he announced during a senior staff meeting in what had been designated as the ship's war room. "Our hit-and-run tactics are buying time, but Earth's defenses are collapsing. We need to strike back." Dr. Emma Stone shook her head. "The primary weapons aren't fully integrated yet. If we engage directly, we die," Walker finished. "I know, but we're going to die anyway if we don't try something bold." Emma's eyes narrowed. Bold or suicidal? Is there a difference at this point? The silence that followed acknowledged the truth no one wanted to face. Earth had days, perhaps hours, before the Vorlak fleet overwhelmed the last defenses. Thunderchild, for all its advanced technology, was still just one ship against an armada. "There might be a way," said Dr. Reed, who had been studying the Arcturan records recovered alongside the technology. "The gravitational drive doesn't just propel the ship. According to these equations, it can manipulate space-time in ways we hadn't considered." A plan began to form, audacious, desperate, and with a high probability of destroying Thunderchild along with any hope for humanity's survival. But as Walker looked around the room at the faces of his improvised crew, he saw not despair, but resolute determination. "If we're going to do this, everyone needs to be all in," he said. "This isn't a military vessel in the traditional sense. I'm not ordering anyone to participate in what amounts to a suicide mission." Lisa was the first to respond. "My family is on Earth. There's nowhere to run, no place to hide. I'm in." One by one, each member of the crew voiced their commitment. They were scientists, researchers, and engineers thrust into war, but they shared a common purpose that transcended their civilian backgrounds. Humanity would not perish without a fight. As they finalized preparations for their desperate gambit, Walker used the neural interface to address the entire crew simultaneously. "We didn't ask for this war. We didn't seek conflict among the stars. But here we stand, the unlikely defenders of our species, aboard a ship that represents the pinnacle of human ingenuity and determination. The Vorlak believe we are weak because we are young, because our technology is borrowed and imperfect. They are about to learn what countless adversaries throughout human history have discovered. There is nothing more dangerous than underestimating humanity's resolve." Throughout the ship, crew members paused in their tasks, drawing strength from words that echoed not just through speakers, but seemed to resonate within the very hull of Thunderchild itself. "We are scientists who have become warriors," Walker continued. "Engineers who have become soldiers. We carry with us the weight of our entire species' future, and we will not fail." Thunderchild emerged from the shadow of Neptune's moon Triton, its hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. A black silhouette against the backdrop of space. Ahead lay the Vorlak fleet, their crystal ships arranged in perfect geometric formations as they methodically dismantled Earth's orbital defenses. Gravitational drive operating at 94% capacity, Mike reported from his station. Weapons systems online, though the Arcturan cannons are showing some instability. Through the neural interface, Walker could feel the ship's eagerness. There was no other word for it. As if Thunderchild itself understood what was at stake and strained toward the coming battle. "Begin the approach," Walker ordered. "Engage stealth systems and prepare to execute Phase 1. Thunderchild accelerated silently through the void, its revolutionary drive leaving no energy signature for the Vorlak to detect. Dr. Reed's discovery had proven correct. The Arcturan technology could bend space-time not just for propulsion, but as a form of camouflage, wrapping distorted space around the ship like a cloak. They penetrated deep into the Vorlak formation before the first crystalline vessel showed any sign of detecting them. By then, it was too late. "Now," Walker commanded, and felt Thunderchild respond instantly. The ship unleashed its first salvo, not conventional weapons, but a precisely calibrated gravitational pulse that rippled outward, distorting space around 3 Vorlak vessels. The alien ships shuddered, their perfect crystalline structures unable to withstand the sudden spatial compression. Fractures appeared along their hulls, spreading like ice cracking on a frozen lake until the vessels shattered into countless glittering fragments. The remaining Vorlak ships reacted with alarming speed, their formation dissolving as they turned to face this unexpected threat. Energy beams lanced through space where Thunderchild had been moments before, but the human vessel was already moving, its maneuverability defying the laws of inertia. Multiple targeting locks. Lisa shouted. They've adapted their sensors. Walker didn't respond verbally. He didn't need to. Through the neural interface, he directed Thunderchild through a series of impossible maneuvers, the ship responding to his thoughts faster than any human pilot could have executed commands. The battle became a deadly dance through Earth's solar system. Thunderchild struck and retreated, each attack precisely calculated to maximize damage while minimizing exposure. The Vorlak, despite their technological superiority, found themselves unable to counter a strategy they had never encountered before, a blend of human military tactics and capabilities they didn't understand. But Thunderchild wasn't invulnerable. A Vorlak beam grazed the port side, overloading shield systems and sending cascading failures through multiple decks. Hull breach on Deck 4, Emma reported, her hands flying over emergency controls. The self-healing systems are responding, but slower than expected. Walker felt the ship's pain through the neural link, a disconcerting sensation of damage to his own body. Reroute power from secondary systems. We need those shields back online before they hit us again. The crew worked frantically, their earlier roles forgotten as everyone focused on keeping Thunderchild functional. Scientists became damage control teams. Researchers manned weapons stations. What they lacked in training, they made up for in sheer adaptability, a quintessentially human trait. As the battle raged, Earth's remaining defense forces recognized the opportunity Thunderchild had created. The distracted Vorlak fleet presented vulnerabilities that hadn't existed before, and humanity's remaining ships launched a coordinated assault. "Admiral," Lisa called out, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "Earth Command is reporting Vorlak ships breaking formation across multiple sectors. They're repositioning to deal with us." Walker allowed himself a grim smile. Phase 1 had succeeded. They had forced the Vorlak to divide their attention. Now came the truly dangerous part of the plan. "Prepare for Phase 2, he ordered. "Set course for the Vorlak command vessel." Through the viewports and sensor displays, the target was unmistakable. A massive crystalline structure at the heart of the Vorlak fleet, twice the size of any other vessel. Intelligence suggested it contained the collective consciousness that coordinated the entire invasion force. Thunderchild accelerated toward it, taking hit after hit as the Vorlak realized their intention. Systems failed across the ship, emergency force fields flickered, and crew members worked through injuries to keep their stations operational. "We're not going to survive ramming speed," Emma warned, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Walker shook his head. "We're not ramming them. We're going to show them something they've never seen before." As Thunderchild closed the final distance to the Vorlak command ship, Walker activated the full potential of the Arcturan gravitational drive. Not as a weapon, not as propulsion, but as Dr. Reed had theorized, a localized manipulation of reality itself. 3 years after the Battle of Earth, Admiral James Walker stood on the observation deck of the orbital station New Dawn, watching as construction teams swarmed around the skeleton of humanity's second Arcturan hybrid vessel. Below, Earth still bore the scars of the Vorlak assault, but where once there had been fires and destruction, now there was rebuilding and growth. "They're calling it the Phoenix class," Emma said, joining him at the viewport. The neural implant at the base of her skull, identical to Walker's own, caught the light as she turned to look at the construction. "Seems appropriate." Walker nodded. "And there are 6 more in development throughout the system. The Jupiter shipyards should have theirs completed within the month." What Thunderchild had done in those final moments near the Vorlak command ship had rewritten humanity's understanding of physics and their place in the galaxy. The gravitational manipulation had created a localized pocket of distorted spacetime, trapping the Vorlak command vessel in what effectively amounted to its own private dimension, cut off from the rest of its fleet. Without central coordination, the remaining Vorlak ships had fallen into disarray. Some fled, some fought on with diminished effectiveness, but the extermination of humanity had been averted by the narrowest of margins. Thunderchild itself had barely survived, limping back to Earth with critical systems failing and half its crew wounded. But the ship had become more than a vessel. It had become a symbol of humanity's unexpected resilience. "The Galactic Council representatives are arriving tomorrow," Emma reminded him. "Are you ready for that?" Walker smiled wryly. "As ready as anyone can be to introduce humanity to an interstellar political body that didn't think we were worth protecting from extinction." The Vorlak incursion had drawn the attention of the wider galactic community, species that had previously considered humanity too primitive for formal contact. The revelation that humans had not only survived a Vorlak cleansing fleet, but had done so by successfully integrating and improving upon Arcturan technology, had sent shockwaves through galactic society. "They're afraid of us now," Emma observed. "Good," Walker replied simply. "Fear can be the foundation of respect." Below them, in a specially constructed dock, Thunderchild underwent its final repairs. The ship would never be the same. Parts of its hull had been permanently altered by the stresses it had endured. But those battle scars told a story that was spreading throughout known space. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Dr. Reed's team decoded another section of the Arcturan database. Emma said after a moment of contemplation, "It suggests the Arcturans didn't die out. They evolved beyond physical form. The technology they left behind might have been intentional, a gift for species they deemed worthy." Walker considered this, or a test. Either way, we passed. The observation deck filled with other personnel, scientists, military officers, and diplomats preparing for humanity's formal introduction to galactic society. Among them were faces Walker recognized from Thunderchild's crew, now leaders in Earth's rapidly advancing technological renaissance. Mike Rogers, once a reluctant weapons officer, now headed the newly formed Stellar Defense Academy. Lissa Torres had become humanity's foremost expert in sinolinguistics, preparing to address the Galactic Council in their own formal language protocols. What none of them had anticipated was how the crisis would transform humanity itself. The need to understand and improve upon alien technology had accelerated human development by centuries. The near-extinction experience had broken down old national rivalries, unifying Earth in ways that peace never had. "They'll try to restrict our expansion," Walker said quietly, watching as a shuttle from Mars docked with the station. "The Council will cite regulations and precedents, try to keep us contained within our solar system." Emma's smile held a hint of the same determination that had carried them through the darkest days of the Vorlak assault. "They can try." As if in response to her words, Thunderchild's systems activated briefly, its lights pulsing in what the crew had come to recognize as a form of communication. The ship had developed in unexpected ways, following its exposure to the intense gravitational distortions, ways that suggested the Arcturan technology had never been meant to remain static, but to evolve alongside its users. "Humanity survived not because we were stronger or more advanced," Walker said, addressing the assembled personnel, "but because when faced with extinction, we refused to accept it as inevitable. We took the knowledge left behind by a civilization far greater than our own, and instead of being crushed by the responsibility, we rose to meet it." He gestured toward Thunderchild, battle-scarred but unbowed. "This ship was never meant to be a warship. It became one because that's what we needed. Now, as we step onto the galactic stage, we carry with us the lesson it taught us. Humanity's greatest strength isn't in our technology or our resources, but in our adaptability and our unyielding resolve." The assembled crowd looked out at the stars, no longer distant and unreachable, but the next frontier for a species that had faced its end and instead found a new beginning. "The galaxy called us primitive," Walker concluded. "They will never make that mistake again."